Welcome to today's webinar on institution-wide green cleaning, one initiative with financial, health, and sustainability advantages for all. I would like to take this opportunity to thank National Joint Powers Alliance for hosting this event and National Association of Educational Procurement for sponsoring it and inviting their members. Special thanks to our distinguished presenters for contributing their time and expertise to this valuable topic: Sandy Hicks, Associate VP, University of Colorado; Melanie Knowles, Sustainability Manager, Kent State University; and Roger McFadden, Senior Scientist and VP, Staples. Each attendee is muted. Please type your questions in the chat box on your screen, and we will address them in the order that they appear. During our Q&A session, we have about 15 minutes for that. This presentation is being recorded, archived, and made available on NAEP's and NJPA's websites for future reference. NAEP will be surveying after the event, so please give them your feedback in order to optimize future webinar presentations. I'm Rick Clemens, Staples Facilities Manager for Higher Education. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the topic and agenda and kind of set the stage for you and our presenters. During our presentation, we urge you to think of green cleaning as a single institution-wide initiative, one programmatic solution to the many challenges facing colleges and universities today. Dr. McFadden will seek to speak to the technology and performance that are making this opportunity a reality. Sandy Hicks will share her expertise in enabling institution-wide green cleaning. Melanie Knowles will share her perspective as Sustainability Manager for Facilities on Kent State University's Green Cleaning Program. In response to the challenges facing universities, the challenges of lower funding, universities and colleges are seeking new strategic solutions to lower long-term cost structures and achieve their key objectives. With this in mind, could institution-wide green cleaning be a panacea for your institution? As our panelists share their expertise and experience, consider the numerous advantages, the wins, including lower cleaning costs, both product and process, achieving lower long-term cost structure for the institution, higher performance cleaning, improved health and safety for everyone in the campus, progress towards sustainability with accurate data and reporting, improved risk management for your institution with fewer injuries, and finally, lower environmental impact. We hope you find the institution-wide green cleaning a highly valuable presentation and initiative for your school. Roger, would you like to lead off?
Thank you very much, Rick, for the introduction. I'm delighted to be joining my colleagues Sandy and Melanie today to share a few thoughts and ideas with all of you. And to those that are attending this webinar today, we really appreciate the great work that all of you are already doing in your institutions, in your universities, to keep your facilities clean and healthy and safe for your students, your staff, and your visitors. For the next few minutes, we wanted to share some thoughts about green cleaning and the value it can bring to your organization, and to help build on the great work that you're already doing. And some of you already started your implementation of green cleaning, I would suspect, and others are just in the early stages of this journey. Because of technology advancements, stakeholder collaboration, and high-performance products, building an institution-wide green cleaning program is really a reality today, where in the past it's been a big mountain to climb. There are some trends out there today that I suspect that none of you will surprise any of you. And we're not alone really in this effort. We're seeing green cleaning being implemented in a wide range of sectors, including K through 12 education, healthcare, government, office buildings, retailers are entering this space, hospitality, and all types of facilities, large and small. So the notion that we have to do this alone anymore is dispelled. We have a lot of work, and it is a team sport. It requires us to work together in a collaborative way to meet our objectives that we're trying to meet. And green cleaning is really connects very nicely with our sustainability objectives within our organizations. But there are these trends, this budget pressure, where we're focusing on savings these days, time pressure, staff. We're asking more of our cleaning people to do more, to clean more space, and often with less resources. We have green buildings that are challenging us in good ways for us to be able to earn certifications on our buildings and to maintain that high level of certification is not always easy because we get these certifications, open the buildings up, and things begin to deteriorate. So we have to maintain this high level of credibility and certification. Green cleaning policies and products and processes out there today are challenging us. We need to develop those. We'll talk just a little bit about that. And I know Sandy and Melanie will share some real-life experiences of what they're doing in their facilities to help advance this forward. And then lastly, this notion of measuring and validating green cleaning claims, green claims is very important. We want to avoid greenwashing at all expense. At the same time that we have these pressures, we as a supplier at Staples to many of your organizations are challenged by you, and rightfully so, to say to us, we would like you as a supplier to help us meet some of our objectives and to go beyond the traditional relationships that exist often between suppliers and customers and the basic kind of services that are kind of expected. But today, you're beginning to challenge us to say, hey, help us find ways to eliminate waste in our universities. Help us find ways to conserve energy, to lower our total life cycle cost. The idea of eliminating product duplication, this redundancies that we seem to have a lot of in our buildings today, where we have many products that do the same thing, and creates confusion, additional costs in our organization and need for training. And then to identify and transition to safer alternatives, you're asking us to help you do that, to identify safer alternatives that do not create regrettable substitutions for you, and then to help you measure and report the success of doing that. And that's what you say to us matters most, and we really need as a supplier to listen to that. So all of your suppliers today are probably going to be challenged more and more with these as time goes by. And at the same time, we have in the greater world some things going on that are challenging us all in the supply chains today. We really have a consumer that's getting smarter, that's more informed, that has access to information instantly, 24/7. They talk to each other, 24/7 instantaneously. So anything that happens good, we can spread very quickly across this globe, and anything we do negative can spread just as quickly, if not more quickly sometimes. And there's also this idea of biomonitoring studies that are somewhat troubling to us these days, where we're finding chemicals in newly born babies' blood, for instance, should alert us and bring awareness to this notion that we do need to be careful not to inadvertently allow chemicals of concern that under many circumstances may be very safe, but when they're released into the world without thoughtful kind of processes, we end up, the unintended consequences of having them end up in our environment or even in our bodies. There's also this demand for transparency. Some have called this age the age of transparency, and we see many examples of that, don't we, in our world today. So these are all the things that are beginning to challenge us. So let's talk a little bit about chemicals. I'm a scientist, and so I spend a lot of time thinking about this. There are those who say often we need a chemical-free world, but a chemical-free world would be a scary place, would it not? I mean, our bodies are chemicals, the air we breathe are chemicals, the water we drink, chemicals, the food we consume, the products we use to treat our illnesses, they're all chemicals. So we need to begin to differentiate in our minds what we're talking about here. We're not trying to avoid all chemicals. We're trying to understand that in reality, chemicals can either be good or they can be bad based on the way we make them and use them, handle them, and dispose of them. So if we think for a moment that all chemicals aren't created equal, that they have different inherent properties, some chemicals, for instance, can help cure cancer or treat cancer or other illnesses. Other chemicals can actually cause cancer or at least impact our ability to weaken immune systems to where we can't fight off certain types of illnesses. So we need to understand better what that's all about, and we at Staples take this seriously. We work closely with our suppliers and in our own brands to deal with these issues every day because they are important. And it's not just important in the product itself. We need to think about the end of life, the inputs and outputs, and so we spend a lot of time thinking about that as well. So bringing this down to kind of the real world, here's a list of chemicals that are found in what we call conventional cleaning products that have been designed over the past 20 or 30 years. Many of these still exist today in our supply chains. They're legacy-type products. They represent the legacy side of things. This is what we really are trying to wrestle with, to try to find ways to get out of these types of chemicals in products, not to kill the products, not to eliminate the product from our beneficial use in application, but to realize that we should be able to find and have been able to find adequate alternatives to be able to address and replace these types of chemicals and products that may be in our facilities today. Now, going green can be challenging. Many of you know that. Anytime that you've kind of embarked upon a green initiative, I suspect you've probably met some of these resistance before. You know, products are too expensive, they don't work, they're too difficult for our staff to change to those methods. There's this basic resistance to change, and I don't have enough information to make my decisions on. These are all things that we as a supplier and your supplier base should be able to help you with. Products can't be too expensive. If they're too expensive, they're not going to be purchased, and they're not going to be scalable, and they're not going to be sustainable. And certainly, if they don't work, no one's going to keep using them, right? So the transition to green cleaning brings us some interesting value. You have in your university people who care a lot about compliance. So they want to basically stay in compliance with all regulations, and a good thing. But leadership companies are saying, no, let's go beyond compliance, because compliance in some ways is a laggard. Compliance is regulations often are after the damage is done. And so we as an organization are thinking forward. And so the idea of green cleaning is to think ahead and to anticipate and to try to get ahead of regulations. Now, a green cleaning program, and many of you probably already have those, are really going to involve 5 components. I'm not going to go through these with you. There's too much detail in each. I'll just say that we at Staples are available to help you work through these. We've done this with many organizations, and we have lots of information that we can share, and networking and tools and resources that we'll be glad to toss your direction. If you're interested, just let us know. But these are the 5 components of a green cleaning program You need policies in place. You need training to train to those policies. You need green cleaning products that are valid, that are certified. You need equipment, tools, and paper goods. Life cycle thinking needs to come into play, and then sustainability training and education, and aligning it with your overall university is really important. And Sandy and Melanie will give you some more detail in these in their presentations shortly. Also, don't just think in terms of this being a chemical issue. This really is much broader than just a chemical issue. It's a process issue, but it's also the equipment you select to use can impact as well the cleaning sustainability and the objectives that you have as well. So be sure that the equipment that you select is properly certified and that you have a measure of confidence that it's bringing you the value that you're expecting. Also, when you're selecting cleaning products in procurement, here's some procurement criteria, and I suspect Sandy and Melanie will talk a little about this. You know, you certainly, cost is an important issue for you, and we recognize that. So we're always trying to work on finding ways to reduce costs in these products by the way we formulate them in many cases to make them more dilutable. Superior performance, simplicity, making it intuitive for people to use it. We shouldn't make them so complex that it's difficult for you to make this transition. There's already resistance on the part of some of your people. There's product and system compatibility that you need to think about, and then the overall alignment with your sustainability objectives is very, very important. And then lastly, before I hand it off to Sandy, we really need to think about, you know, cleaning product essentials. First, that the product needs to perform equal to or better than the current product that you use. We recognize that. Secondly, it needs to bring the additional value of the environmental performance into the picture. And many of the products that we showed you on the list earlier of chemicals of concern, they wouldn't meet those environmental performance requirements that are so important to us to protect human health and the environment. And lastly, we can't ignore cost. It's extremely important to keep them affordable and competitive. So at this stage, it's time for me to hand it off to the really important people in this show, and that's the two people that really do this every day in their organization. So I'll hand it off to Sandy. Sandy, it's yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. So I would just like to start by giving you a little background about the University of Colorado. So we have 58,000 students on 4 campuses, which includes our Colorado Springs campus, which is a traditional campus, but it's also viewed as our growth campus. Our Denver campus, which is very much an urban setting where a lot of the students come in to go to school every day. We have an Anschutz Medical campus in Aurora, Colorado. And then, of course, our flagship Boulder campus, which is what we're most noted for. And it's kind of interesting because amongst all those campuses, we cover 90 miles of real estate. So we do get around to the different campuses. And just as a point of size for you, our budget for fiscal year 14 was $3 billion. And so the department that we're in is the Procurement Service Center, and which is a system office that processes procurement support to all campuses. So we do actually go out and visit all the campuses and work as a conduit for the different campuses on different issues, and you'll see what role we played with the green janitorial. So to just give you the historical situation at the University of Colorado with green janitorial products, we were very disjointed. Decentralized. Pretty much every department that was using janitorial products was either doing their own thing or not doing anything in this area. There was absolutely no collaboration, and we were not taking advantage of the university's purchasing power by bringing this commodity all together as far as the usage goes. So every campus was doing their own program, which meant we have 3 facilities departments, 2 housing departments, 1 athletic department, and they were all just kind of out there doing their own thing. So just to let you know the stakeholders for the team that came together for the RFP, so the Procurement Service Center, then we had from the Boulder campus both the facilities and the housing department, And on the Denver Anschutz campus, we had the facilities department. And then once again, facilities and housing on Colorado Springs. And then we had 3 sustainability officers. So I know in my opening slide I talked about 4 campuses, which that part is true, but on our Denver Anschutz campuses, they have a consolidated facilities department. So when I say 3, then they're being represented by 1 person. So it does get a little confusing, but we are still 4 campuses. So right out of the bat, we wanted the team to think about what are the advantages of going through this process. And so there was an absolute desire by all parties to go green with the cleaning products for the various reasons that Roger highlighted in his presentation. And then, of course, everyone also wanted to save money on this, so save some green. So as we head off down the road, we were like, okay, but what are the disadvantages? And we did not have campus leadership. So the Procurement Service Center was leading the charge, but we do not report up through the campus leadership. So that kind of gets tricky if you don't have people that really want to play with this. And then we also did not have consensus on product. And then we also thought about, what testing methodology do we want to use to make sure that the green products were cleaning as well as the products we used before we went green. So our initial steps were the Procurement Service Center decided to take the lead on this. And we all agreed we needed a university-wide agreement, which meant as a group they were going to have to agree on things. And so we had Will James, who's one of the purchasing managers in our department, lead the process and facilitate it. And then Michael Fox, who's our strategic sourcing manager, served as the chairperson of the committee. So although the campus stakeholders felt this was a great initiative, none of them really wanted to put forth the effort to own it and move it forward. So we stepped up and said we would take that role and make sure that we could move forward with it. And then all of the parties were willing to spend the time that it took to be committee members. So that was a great commitment on everyone's behalf. So as this committee head out, they asked, okay, so what are our challenges? And once again, identifying and connecting to the right stakeholders. Because although you saw the list I had, there's still the athletic department, the rec center, the student center. So they all have their own janitorial staffs that somehow we needed to rope their opinion into this process too. And then just understanding our current processes, letting everybody come to the table and actually outline what it is they were doing and any concerns they had. And, at first, some of them were not convinced that having a university-wide agreement was really the best thing, but we knew we needed to get everybody to agree to that in order to move forward, and we actually were able to get that agreement. And then, of course, being able to gather data on what we've been doing. So just quickly, some of the stakeholder concerns were that they might have to change suppliers. People get comfortable with the way they're ordering and the people they deal with, the person delivering their product, and so that is definitely a concern that they might have to change suppliers. What are the new products and equipment, and what kind of training and time would be needed to switch over to new products and equipment? Would we have a different ordering process? What kind of training would be available? And then, as I mentioned, Boulder, sitting as our flagship campus, is also the biggest campus. And there's always concerns by the other campus departments that they will be overpowered by the Boulder campus. So as the facilitators, we wanted to make sure that all the stakeholders' voices were heard, and no one campus was getting more play than the others. So the data gathering. So this is the question we asked ourselves. Does anyone know what they are buying, quantities, the dilution ratios, or how much they are paying? And as you can imagine, it was all over the board. And so we could pull information from our payable system and also procurement card to try and figure out what we were buying. But what the departments had to identify was the dilution ratios. Are you pumping it 4 times or 5 times? How many uses are you getting out of a 64-ounce bottle. So all those kind of things we really had to, try and wrestle to the ground because we couldn't pull the information off the invoices and just take it straight off of there. So the goals as we went out to the RFP process, of course, are cleaning products that work, that they're environmentally friendly, and we wanted to eliminate the reliance on harsh chemicals, and I think Roger talked about this too, standardize and consolidate products. That was big. Streamline the process and increase dollar savings. So the RFP process, it involved representatives from the stakeholders I discussed earlier, so it was a cross-campus evaluation committee. And once this group got together, initially we were truly just looking at the chemicals, but they decided if we're going to talk about chemicals, let's also talk about paper. So paper also got added to the RFP once the group got together. And then on this slide you can see what our evaluation criteria was. So we wanted to know that whoever was awarded the contract could actually, they would have a plan in place. They weren't just going to drop chemicals off at our dock. They were going to work with our janitorial staff, that they would have a training plan. And, also we looked at, okay, are they going to be a partner for the university, not just providing product? So those things were all very important. And then the product testing was an extremely important criteria. So let's talk a little bit about the testing methodology. So we actually had 9 suppliers respond to the RFP, and out of that we tested 4 of the suppliers. And so how this process worked was it was a double-blind product test that was conducted on our Boulder campus with all committee members present to witness the test. So we were looking for the efficacy of the following cleaning products from each of the 4 remaining suppliers, which are listed on the screen. So glass cleaner, disinfectant, floor cleaner, and then the all-purpose cleaner. So the 4 remaining suppliers provided sealed samples of the products listed for testing. The test was a pass-fail type test based on product performance compared to the incumbent products currently in use. So in fact, we were testing the environmentally friendly against the products that were not, that we had historically used. So all products were masked so that the products could not be matched with any particular supplier. So the campus standard janitorial cleaning practice per product application was used for the test. And I thought this was absolutely fascinating. So for example, on the mirror cleaning, they would use 3 squirts of cleaner, 4 passes with the appropriate wiper, and then in order to pass, the glass had to be clean with no spots or streaks left behind. So it was very stringent as far as exactly how each product was tested. So the test was conducted by a janitorial supervisor with results witnessed by the evaluation committee. Then the purchasing agent recorded the results and shared the tabulation with the committee members after all tests were completed. And I would like to tell you that they actually went to a bathroom that's notorious for being one of the dirtiest bathrooms on campus. So we really knew that at the end of this test, the products that we had tested could do the job. So as a result of this, we awarded the contract to Staples Advantage, and we moved forward with that partnership. So you might remember that one of our goals was to actually not have as many products that we were using. And so this shows an example of the 64 multi-purpose cleaner was able to replace 11 different items that we used to bring in to the university. So you can see how this streamlines the janitorial staff process. They don't have to be messing with 11 different products. They can just go to this one and it does the work of the 11. So we were very pleased with that kind of consolidation. And this briefly shows our implementation plan that we came up with Staples. So once we had the signed contract, we sent out a letter to all the departments that were affected by this, let them know that Staples was going to be coming out, had a training announcement. And I would just like to say on the training side, there are many issues that needed to be addressed, like when could they come in and train, because a lot of the janitors work the evening shift. Also, we had language issues, and so Staples was able to train in languages other besides English, which was great. So this was our initial plan, but I would also say that on an ongoing basis, Staples calls on our departments. I think they have meetings twice monthly to make sure everything's going good. And then there's always new developments in this area, so we want to make sure that we're using the latest and greatest products. And this is just an example of Staples' commitment to really stepping up to get our installation complete on time to start the semester classes. This is our account rep, who I've never seen in a polo shirt before because he's usually dressed more professionally, but he really stepped in to also help install these dispensers so that we could meet the time frame we were looking at. And this just illustrates the difference between the before and after, so the before is on the left side. And then you might notice on the wall hanging, we also have co-branded with Staples. So on the right side there, you'll see a buffalo. And I think that also helps the staff feel more prideful about the venture that we're on, you know, that it is actually endorsed by CU. And this is also just another example of how we were able to organize it and how there's less products involved since going with them. But I did want to give you a quote from our housing janitorial supervisor, who said that Staples continues to partner with us to establish solutions to make sure we have the right products in place. So once again, it's not one and done. We're constantly working with them. And this includes access to Staples chemists and a thorough testing process for new items. So I think actually talking to the people that are working day to day with Staples really helps us understand that the partnership is working the way that it was designed. So to just kind of sum up what we've been able to do with our green janitorial contract, we were able to get environmentally friendly products that work. We were able to consolidate the number of products that we're using in that area. We've had great support in installation and training. And then the ordering process, it's great because they can actually order through our e-procurement system. And so that's a system that they use to order other products, so that was very familiar to them. We have one truck for office and janitorial supplies. So Staples already was our provider for office products, so that's also another sustainability win for us. And then although it says projected 23% cost savings, we've actually been able to achieve that cost savings. And then the contract that we've signed can be shared with other entities like higher education institutions. And then there's also a case study that's available that we wrote with Staples that documents the overall success of this contract. So if you want more information, that's a helpful handout too. So at this time, I would like to hand it over to Melanie to talk about Kent State.
Thanks a lot, Sandy. So this is Melanie Knowles. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Kent State University, and I have been here for about 4 years since my position was created. And just to give you a little idea about the size of our campus, we have about 27,700 students at our Kent campus, 135 buildings with over 6 million square feet, and we cover about 941 acres. Now, I'm in the sustainability office, and I find it helpful to talk about the 3 Ps, people, planet, and prosperity. But you might also hear this as the 3 Es, which would be environment, economy, and social equity. And the reason I bring it up is because for me, what I'm aiming for are solutions that will benefit all 3 of those. Not something that costs a lot of money and doesn't help people, but maybe is good for the environment, but something that really, truly is sustainable and benefits all 3 of those things. My office is under facilities planning and operations. So what I do extends, it covers a lot of area, things, buildings, LEED certification on buildings, energy efficiency and renewable energy, transportation options on campus, waste reduction, so a wide variety of things. And we do these things not only because they're good for the university and good for operations, But we know that some students, when they're looking at where they want to go to school, take sustainability initiatives on campus into consideration when they're making that decision. And then beyond that, I also work with some faculty on incorporating sustainability into their courses, and we especially try to link what we're actually doing in operations on campus with what students are learning about and want to be able to apply when they leave Kent State. But coming back to why we're here today, we're talking about cleaning products and cleaning contracts. When our cleaning contract was going to go out for bid again, I knew that we had an opportunity. Of course, we needed to have effective cleaners. The products needed to be cost-effective, but we had an opportunity to get products that were healthier for people and for the environment. And it was very important to me that the sustainability or the green nature of these products be verifiable and that we not be perceived as greenwashing or overstating the greenness or sustainability of the products that we were using. Now, the previous RFP for cleaning products required products that were Green Seal certified or equivalent. Now, that equivalent didn't really mean another certification. It actually allowed for companies to provide lab results to demonstrate that their product could be Green Seal certified if they went through the process. And the reason that was included was there was concern, we like to work with small businesses, local businesses, and we didn't want those businesses to be ruled out because of what, might be an expensive certification process. But the problem with that approach, one was who did we have on staff who could really evaluate those lab results and make that determination? And, for that matter, Green Seal certification entails more than just looking at one set of lab results. So it wouldn't have been equivalent, even if it was a good product, it wouldn't have been equivalent to certification. And what happened, the company that we were working with after the previous RFP, the products that they started with, they did say could be Green Seal certified, but they then got feedback from our custodial and housekeeping departments saying, you know what, can you tweak this product? Can you change this formula? And they did, and they were able to do that. And custodial was really happy, and they saw this as a great benefit to working with the company we were working with. But what happened is the products that they tweaked were not Green Seal equivalent. And actually they were very straightforward with me that no, these are no longer Green Seal equivalent products, but we are giving you what you asked for. And before my position was created, we really didn't have someone on campus whose goal was to look for that. So I worked with procurement, and when the new RFP went out, we changed the language. So it required Green Seal certification or an equivalent certification. The one that comes to mind is Eco-Logo, but we would have been open to looking at other certifications that were presented to us. And because of my previous conversations with procurement and with custodial, I was included on the selection committee. Our committee included a few folks from procurement, and then we have 4 custodial or housekeeping departments on our campus. So University Facilities Management covers our academic and administrative buildings. Resident Services and Dining Services each have their own departments, and then our Student Rec and Wellness Center has its own custodial department as well. And so then Sustainability Manager, I rounded out that group. And immediately when we started to meet to discuss this, there were a lot of concerns expressed by the committee. The first one was that the products would be less effective. They were afraid that by requiring certified products that the proposals wouldn't even include the best products that these companies could offer us. Also that the products would be more expensive. They were afraid everything that proposed was going to break the budget. There wasn't a lot of understanding, knowledge about the Green Seal certification, and so some folks feared that it really wasn't meaningful. And then again, the concern that we had the previous time around that some local companies, smaller companies, might have good products but not be able to afford the certification. Well, from my position, I really had to advocate for the value of certification, for a third-party nonprofit organization to be verifying what we have. Without that, the question really is, how do you know? What a company says they're giving you, and not to say they would try to misrepresent their product, but if they haven't gone through the process, how do they know that their product is, equivalent to a certified product? And then beyond all of that, as sustainability manager, I want to be able to represent our cleaning program as being a green cleaning program without a certification to back up what I'm saying. Even if I'm personally confident in the product, without a certification, I'm not able to make that assertion. And just a couple places where that comes into play. The STARS rating system from ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. They have a credit, Operations Credit 13, for cleaning products purchasing. And then the LEED for existing buildings, operation and maintenance rating system that comes from the U.S. Green Building Council. Their Indoor Environmental Quality Credit 3.3, purchase of sustainable cleaning products and materials. Both of these take into account certifications, including Green Seal. And it isn't just a yes or no, I use Green Seal or I don't. You actually have to say what percentage of your expenditures on cleaning products are on Green Seal or other certified products. So one other advantage to Staples actually is their tracking. They could actually give me that very detailed information without me being the one having to crunch all those numbers. So back to the process we were going through for selecting products. First, after a lot of discussion, the committee decided that no companies were going to be eliminated based on whether or not their products were Green Seal certified. Not that we were giving up on certification, but we just decided if there was a good company with a good product and we wanted to work with them, that if they weren't certified already, we would work with them to get certification after they were selected. So we looked at the proposals and went through the regular process. The first companies were selected based on things in their proposal, like their price, their reputation. Then some of the companies were invited to come in to present to us, and they were asked a lot of questions about their training process, turnaround time for deliveries, their ability to keep items in stock, their responsiveness. And then from there, we selected the top companies. They each had their products installed in a building on campus, and each of the custodial and housekeeping departments tested out each product for a week. So they tested all of the products. And in the end, we ended up selecting Staples, the Sustainable Earth products. And those products were selected because they were the most effective products that were tested. And really, it was fortunate for me that they were also, Staples was the only company that submitted Green Seal certified products for any product that was eligible for certification. Also, the Sustainable Earth products were actually costing us less than what we were paying for the products in our previous contract. So the committee was thrilled with the products, the price, and that they were able to provide a healthier environment for their employees and for the building occupants. And this really goes back to that, the 3 Ps that I was talking about at the beginning. With all of these wins, we are creating a solution that is better for our bottom line, healthier for our people, and better for the environment. And on the right side of the screen, you actually see the case study that we worked with Staples on creating that basically tells the story. And one last thing I wanted to say about this is it's really not just the product that we ended up with that made this a success. It's really the process that we went through, that we involved a lot of people. Not all the folks listed here were on the selection committee, but they are all people who are concerned about and are affected by the cleaning products that we use on our campus. And just going through this process involving a lot of people, including a lot of education, we got buy-in from these folks, and in the end, ended up with products that we were all very comfortable and happy with. And I think that's it for me, and I will hand it back to Rick.
Thank you, Melanie. For everybody on the webinar, now's the time you can send in your questions, and we'll be glad to address them in the remaining 15 minutes of our presentation. I have one already for Sandy Hicks. Sandy, can you explain the transition of bringing departments onto the contract and how that worked?
Sure. So our initial transition involved the larger departments like facilities and housing to bring them up. And we had a very efficient process, really, from contract signing till full implementation was 6 weeks. So we felt very good about that. But some of the other departments took a little longer to bring on board. Like I said, we needed to really get their buy-in, and people change over time. So even during this process, some people that said, yes, we're in, had left the university. So we, in fact, had to go out and sell the contract over again to some of the departments, like athletics would be a good example. It took 18 months and some people leaving in order to get in and convince them that this was the right way for them to go. And kind of like I talked about the marketing piece, Staples was able to bring in dispensers into the stadium that actually have the CU logo on those too, which of course athletics loved that. So.
Thanks, Sandy. Roger, I think this question might be best directed to you. What is the best way to validate that green cleaning products perform equal or better than conventional cleaning products? How can we know that they do not contain harmful chemicals?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I think those are two questions. The first one, I think Sandy answered very well. The only way to validate performance is to actually do it in a real world scenario. We, in our laboratories at Staples, do a lot of profiling of performance, as you can imagine, before we would ever send a product out. But we do a lot of field testing and hand it off to folks just like Sandy's professional cleaning people, because at the end of the day, they can be the best evaluators of whether a product works or not. So we do screening to make sure that the product we design is equal to or better than, but in reality, we're really interested in knowing, does it really work in a real world scenario? The second piece of validating that the green cleaning product, I think the question's focused around that, doesn't, and I think Melanie answered that question very effectively in her comments about certification. So your organization can take two approaches here. If you have the sophistication in your environmental health and safety departments of your university to assess chemicals in products, and often you may, because you may be dealing with hazardous materials, et cetera, within your laboratories or whatever, and you may already have some sophistication there, then you may want to require your suppliers to give you full disclosure of chemicals in the products that they're offering on your RFPs. And if they're resistant to do that because of intellectual property issues or CBI claims, then require that to be delivered to an independent third party that can protect that information for them. I think that's your best approach, I think. But many companies and organizations today are really requiring more robust disclosure of chemicals in products, and should, by the way, because you don't want to wake up one morning and find out that you're using a product that contains a chemical that pops up in the news, and the worst thing is that you didn't know it was there, because how could you even manage it if you didn't know it was there, and then you manage your PR nightmare.
Sandy, here's a question from Darian Clary. Sandy, will your double-blind test protocol be made available to those of us that would like to replicate this process at our own campuses?
Sure, I could get you the documentation that memorialized the protocol and what we used, yes.
And for Melanie, has the response been from custodial departments on campus regarding the new green products?
You know, it's been very positive. Even the director in one of our directors in resident services has been going out presenting about the success to other schools and like K-12 schools that are trying to switch over. And then knowing that I was going to be talking about this, I asked one of our custodians the other day how it was going, and she started to tell me that you know, a previous product they had used that was supposed to be used inside the elevators actually said on the label that it was not to be used in confined spaces, and she was so worried about the effect that that product might have on her health that she simply refused to use it. So she must have been using something else in the elevators that she wasn't supposed to be using. But now that we're using the Sustainable Earth products, she feels much better about what she's coming into contact with every day. So it's been very positive.
Excellent. So, Sandy, here's one for you. In general, what kind of training is available?
So the training that we had was a joint effort. So Staples didn't just come in and train. They worked with the janitorial supervisors first, you know, because they needed to find out, you know, like I spoke about the language barriers. And so they wanted to make sure that they had people there specifically to speak Spanish and Hmong. Those are the two areas that we have a lot of people, that's their first language. And so it was good that we had this joint effort to really discuss how the training should be delivered, when it should be delivered, and then it wasn't just delivered once. They've also come back in because we knew that, you know, nobody learns everything the first time they get trained. So, and I would say that's one way that Staples really has been a good partner of ours, that they want to make sure that they're not just selling the product, that we're using it correctly.
And here's another question, Sandy. How do you move toward a centralized procurement for departments or staff that use their own departmental cards, P cards, to buy cleaning supplies based on a staff's personal preference? Is there a list of approved products on the university account?
Yes. So now this contract resides on our procurement system, which is called the Marketplace. And so all of our departments have access to it, and they can just go in and order directly off the catalog. But, you know, I think the data gathering piece was key to really figure out the whole population of who was using janitorial chemicals out on the campuses, because even some small departments will still have maybe a janitor, and so we wanted to make sure we reached the larger users and also the small users.
Here's another good question. If we wanted to have a cleaning chemicals and processes audit in our facilities, who would you recommend that we could contact? Roger, do you have any suggestions?
Yes, and we are getting more and more requests from your universities out there to help in this regard. You need some expertise to come in, take a look at your current processes that you're using, and then have a report generated back to your management staff to help inform them in their decision making. And this is something that we have facility solutions specialists who are skilled in going into your facilities and collecting data for you and to report that back to you. It can include such things as looking at your processes and making some recommendations for best practices that we've seen used in other places. It can be as simple as that, or as complex as actually doing an audit of your current chemical inventories and then showing you where the redundancies are, where the costs, wasted costs are in those particular closets where you store these products, and then make some very specific recommendations back to you on how you can begin to manage that. So that's something Staples can help you with. And of course, only working closely with your staff. So the idea isn't to invade your world and to tell you all the things that are wrong. It's really to work closely with your management staff to help apply our expertise to help you meet your objectives. So that's one place you could go to do it. And then there's, of course, some third-party groups that do this kind of stuff as well. So if there's some measure of discomfort in having a supplier do that for you, there are certainly third-party groups that do this as well.
Melanie, this one's for you. You mentioned that your environmental health and safety officer was not on the selection committee. How has he been involved?
Our environmental health and safety officer, Dennis Baden, he's the one who fields all the questions. If people walk into a building and they have questions about the cleaning products, or what is that odor, or is this something that could be harmful, so he's the one who fields all those questions. And he has been very involved in discussions about the products. We had an interesting situation about a year ago where we have a College of Public Health on campus, and some of the faculty in public health were expressing concerns about the new cleaning products, and really were convinced that the best thing that could be used, especially in some of the restroom situations, was bleach. And we were able to, I worked with Dennis and we worked with Staples and got the lab results that we could use to demonstrate to public health that the products we were using were as effective or more effective than bleach in dealing with the things they had concerns about, which was really nice. And also, the public health folks learned at that point that they weren't even using bleach properly when they were using it. They thought it was something you could just, spray on or wipe off or wipe something down with bleach, and that really wasn't as effective as they thought it was anyway. So it was a big learning process. But Dennis in Environmental Health and Safety is really the one who had to guide everyone through that process.
Here's a question from Amy Weisenbacher. Have you moved to campus-wide use of greener products in paper and liner categories as well? If so, what have been some of the highlights? So I'll throw that out, whoever wants to address it. No comment? So I guess, Sandy, if you had any experience with paper and liner?
Right. So we did have paper. Paper was part of this contract, so this is Sandy. So we've had success in switching over, to the recycled papers where it makes sense. I don't think that we have done that in the liner area yet.
Folks, we have a few minutes before our webinar concludes. Questions that were unanswered at this point will be answered via email. I want to thank everyone for attending. Thanks particularly to NJPA and to NAEP. Their recorded presentation will be available and posted on their websites. Please respond to the NAEP survey so we can continue to enhance future webinars. Thanks again to Roger, Sandy, and Melanie for their valuable contributions as presenters. Staples will email attendees contact details, links, and information on the free consultative resources that Roger mentioned. Thanks again to everyone. Have a great day. This concludes our webinar.